Mary's mind was filled with regrets as she lay in the hospital bed, unable to move. The room was silent except for the beeping of the machine and the occasional footsteps of the nurses. She stared out the window, watching the world go by, feeling more alone than ever. One day, while lying there, she received a visit from a priest who came to offer her prayers. "Mary," he said gently, "I know you are suffering, but it's never too late to seek forgiveness and make amends." Mary felt tears welling up in her eyes. She had never felt so lost. "Is there any hope for me?" she asked, her voice trembling. The priest nodded. "There is always hope, but you must start by making things right with those you have hurt. It won't be easy, but it is the first step towards healing." Mary realized she had a lot of making up to do, but how could she even begin? She knew that the path to redemption would be long and difficult. Mary knew she needed to face her past, but the thought of finding her abandoned child seemed impossible. Her body was weak, and her heart was heavy with guilt, but the priest's words echoed in her mind, urging her to take action. With determination, Mary began to write letters. The first one was to John and Sarah, the couple who had taken care of her baby. She explained who she was and apologized for her actions. In the letter, she asked if she could meet them and their son, Michael. She hoped that seeing her child and making amends might erase her guilt, even if it couldn't change the past. After mailing the letter, Mary waited anxiously for a response. Meanwhile, John and Sarah received the letter and were stunned. They had heard of Mary before, but never thought she would come looking for Michael. They discussed what to do and decided that they should meet her, but only if Michael was willing. They didn't want to upset him further. When Mary received their reply, she felt a mix of relief and nervousness. John and Sarah agreed to meet her at the hospital, where Mary was still recovering. As the day approached, Sarah wondered how Michael would react. Would he hate her for abandoning him? Would he even want to see her? The day of the meeting arrived, and Mary's heart raced. John and Sarah walked into her hospital room with Michael. He was now a tall young man with a kind face, but Mary could still see glimpses of the baby she had left behind. Michael looked at Mary with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "Why did you leave me?" he asked quietly. Mary's eyes filled with tears. "I made a terrible mistake," she said, her voice breaking. "I was selfish and didn't understand how much you needed me. I am so sorry." Michael listened, his emotions conflicted. John and Sarah stood by his side, offering their support. They explained how much they loved Michael and how they had raised him as their own. The meeting was painful but important for all of them. Mary realized that while she couldn't change what had happened, she could try to make amends. She promised to support Michael in any way she could, even though she knew she could never undo the past. As Mary continued to recover, she made effort to stay involved in Michael's life. She sent letters, gifts, and even visited John and Sarah's home whenever she could. Though Michael was wary at first, he slowly began to accept his birth mother into his life. Mary's journey of redemption was ongoing. She knew it would take time to heal the wounds she had caused and to find peace with herself. But she was committed to trying, hoping that someday she might find forgiveness and a new sense of purpose. Just when Mary thought things were beginning to settle. A twist of fate shook her to the core. One day, while visiting Michael, she overheard a conversation between him and Sarah. They were talking about a man named Samuel, a close friend of Michael, who had been searching for his birth parents. Mary's heart skipped a beat. The name Samuel rang a bell, a deep, distant bell from a past she had tried to forget. She had another child before, a boy she had given up for adoption when she was very young and unable to care for him. Could Samuel be her firstborn? The thought haunted her. She had already caused so much pain, and now the possibility of another lost child tormented her. Mary debated whether she should say something. Should it be better to leave the past buried? Or did she owe Samuel the truth? Her guilt and worry consumed her, unable to bear the weight of her secrets. Mary finally confessed to the priest who had guided her earlier. He listened patiently, then urged her to find Samuel and tell him the truth. "You can't undo the past, Mary, but you can stop hiding from it," he said gently. With the priest's encouragement, Mary began her search for Samuel. She wasn't sure if he would want to see her or if he would even believe her, but she knew she had to try. Mary's health continued to decline, making her search even more desperate. She tracked down adoption records, contacted agencies, and followed every lead she could find. Each day brought new challenges, but Mary refused to give up. She had to know the truth. Finally, months of searching, Mary found Samuel. He was indeed her son, now a grown man with a family of his own. When she contacted him, Samuel was shocked but agreed to meet with her. Their first meeting was tense. Samuel was cautious, not sure what to make of this woman who claimed to be his mother. Mary poured out her heart, explaining the circumstances that had led to her giving him up. She asked for his forgiveness, not expecting him to give it, but hoping he would understand. Samuel listened quietly. He had always wondered about his birth parents, but hearing Mary's story stirred up emotions he hadn't expected. He felt angry, sadness, and a strange sense of relief all at once. He didn't know if he could forgive her, but he knew he wanted to learn more. Mary and Samuel began to talk more, slowly building a fragile relationship. They met several times, each conversation bringing them closer to understanding each other. As Mary struggled to mend her relationship with Samuel, she noticed a change in Michael. He seemed distant, almost as if he is pulling away from her. Mary couldn't figure out why until one day, Michael asked her a question that scattered her heart. "Why did you try so hard to find Samuel, but you didn't do the same for me?" Michael's voice was calm, but the pain in his eyes was clear. Mary was stunned. She hadn't realized how her search for Samuel had affected Michael. She tried to explain, but her words felt hollow. How could she tell him that the guilt of losing one child had driven her to desperation, while she had been too ashamed to find him sooner? Michael didn't say much after that. He listened, nodded, and then quietly left the room. Mary watched him go, feeling a new kind of loneliness, a fear that she might lose the son she had only just begun to know. Mary's journey to redemption became even more complicated. She had thought finding Samuel would bring her some peace, but it had only opened new wounds. Now, she was faced with the possibility of losing both of her sons. The thought was unbearable. Would Mary be able to amend her relationship with Michael while also building one with Samuel? Or would her past mistake continue to haunt her, tearing apart the fragile bonds she had tried so hard to create? Mary knew she had to keep fighting, not just for herself, but for the family she had always wanted, but never had. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with twists and challenges she could never have imagined. But one thing was clear: Mary couldn't give up, not now, not ever. Mary's life continued to evolve, but the road to redemption was not without its challenges. Despite her efforts, there were days when the weight of her past mistake threatened to overwhelm her. She had to remind herself constantly that she was on a journey of healing, growth, and reconciliation. One day, as Mary was volunteering at a local shelter, she noticed a young woman named Clara. Clara had been through tough times, much like Mary had in her youth. She was lost, scared, and unsure of her future. Mary saw a reflection of her younger self in Clara and felt a deep urge to help her. Mary approached Clara, offering her a warm smile and an open heart. "You remind me of someone I used to be," Mary said gently. "I know things may seem difficult now, but I want you to know that it's never too late to turn your life around." Clara looked up at Mary with tear-filled eyes. "But how? I feel like I've made too many mistakes. I don't think I can ever fix them." Mary took Clara's hand and spoke with conviction. "I've made more mistakes than I can count. But what matters is what you do next. You have the power to change your story, to make amends, and to find a better path. It won't be easy, but I am here to help you, just like others helped me." Inspired by Mary's words, Clara decided to take a small step towards rebuilding her life. With Mary's guidance, she found a job, enrolled in evening classes, and began to mend relationships with her family. As Clara's life started to improve, Mary felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that helping others was not just a way to make up for her past, but also a way to create a meaningful future. Meanwhile, Michael continued his work as a doctor, dedicating himself to his parents with compassion and care. He never forgot the lesson he had learned from his own life: how important it was to offer second chances, to forgive, and to support those in need. One day, Michael invited Mary to speak at a medical conference. He wanted her to share her story with the young doctors, to remind them that behind every patient was a life filled with challenges, mistakes, and the potential for change. Standing before the audience, Mary felt nervous but determined. She spoke openly about her past, her regrets, and the long road to redemption. "I stand before you today, not as a perfect person," Mary said, her voice steady, "but as someone who had learned that it's never too late to change. We all make mistakes, but we also all have the power to make things right." The audience listened intently, moved by Mary's honesty and courage. Her story resonated with many, inspiring them to approach their own lives and their work with more empathy and understanding. After the conference, Michael hugged his mother, feeling a deep sense of pride. "You've come a long way, Mom," he said softly. "I'm so proud of you." Mary smiled, tears of joy in her eyes. "Thank you, Michael. I'm proud of you too. And I am so grateful that you gave me a chance to be a part of your life." As time passed, Mary continued to help others, sharing her story and offering guidance to those who were lost. She knew that she could never erase her past, but she also knew that she could build a better future, one filled with love, compassion, and second chances. The story of Mary teaches us that no matter how many mistakes we have made, it is never too late to seek forgiveness, make amends, and change our lives for the better. The path to redemption is often long and difficult, but it is also filled with opportunities for growth, healing, and positive change. By taking responsibility for our actions and helping others, we can find new meaning and purpose in our lives, proving that it's never too late to turn things around.